When you look at consumer buying trends when it comes to the automotive industry, they really do fluctuate quite a bit. We did have a period when we were buying huge SUVs back in the 90s, but then gas prices forced people to get things that were much smaller. Now, even though gas prices are still pretty high, especially here in Canada, vehicles like this are becoming more and more popular. Our spotlight is on this 2019 Volkswagen Atlas Execline with the V6 engine and R-Line package. Now, Volkswagen says that this is a family-sized SUV, however, it is a unibody front-wheel drive chassis, and it makes it more of a crossover in our books, fitting into the three-row mid-size crossover segment. Now, the closest US trim to this is the Atlas V6 SEL with 4Motion and the R-Line package. Canadian price for this is just under $55,000. US price would be about $46,000 US. And again, they don't really line up completely well, but it's close enough. We're going to be going over absolutely everything you need to know if you're in the market for a 6-passenger, because this has the captain's chairs, mid-size crossover. Let's talk about this behemoth of a crossover. This uses Volkswagen's 3.6-liter narrow-angle VR6 engine, produces 276 horsepower, 266 pound-feet of torque, matted to their 8-speed automatic transmission with Tiptronic. Curb weight is 2,042 kilograms with a towing capacity of 2,268 kilograms, which translates to about 5,000 pounds. That is pretty industry standard for this size of vehicle. And keep in mind there are a number of other new entrants in this category in terms of size and bulk. So the Kia Telluride or even the Hyundai Palisade, they're both shared on the same platform, are aiming at this and offer a lot of the same tech and a lot of the same towing capacity and power. Now, here in Canada, we only have 4 trims, the Execline being the top-end trim. In the States, they have about 20 different trims, and it all depends on the different packages and things like that. But with the Execline, you get 20-inch alloy rims, LED taillights, power folding mirrors, unless you get the R-Line package, which this one has. So with the R-Line package, you get 20-inch Trenton alloy rims, brushed stainless steel pedals, R-Line exterior badging and design package. The front end's changed a little bit. You have a large R-Line badge along the sides of the car. And you lose the 360 camera. You also lose power folding mirrors. So I don't know why that is. I mean, technically, there's no reason why these mirrors, that are just slightly different from the regular version, can't be power folding and can't house the equipment for the 360 camera. I think it's a bit of a bummer. So if I were you, do not get the R-Line package so you can get a fully loaded vehicle. I mean, with a car like this, it is good to have a 360-degree camera just so you can see the lines when you're pulling into a spot. Other important features to note about Volkswagen's largest passenger vehicle to date: it does have LED headlights, halogen fog lights, front and rear park distance control, that backup camera which deletes the 360 camera that would be on this, blind spot monitoring, adaptive cruise control, pedestrian monitoring, rear cross traffic alert, and a panoramic sunroof. You also have rain sensing wipers and heated washer nozzles. That's a great feature to have in our Canadian climate. And you also have power rear lift gates, so when you go into the back, you can open it up without having to lift it up. Aside from that, though, the design kind of follows what Volkswagen has been doing over the last little while. I joked about it on social media, but it really is true. This is a bigger version of the Tiguan, which in and of itself is a bigger version of something like the Passat. The design is all shared between them. The LED headlights with the daytime running lights do look very nice. The daytime running lights double as your turn signals. It's got a cool look to it. And I mean, if you like these big boxy behemoths, then you'll probably like the design of this. I think it looks pretty good, but you do feel the difference in size when you're on the road. You kind of feel more like you're driving a pickup truck. It does sit a little bit higher because it is such a squared off front end with really an engine that doesn't need that much space. You just feel like you're in a much larger vehicle, and it handles sort of like that. We'll talk about that on our road test. But let's hop up now, get inside the vehicle, and we'll go over everything else you need to know. It was 8 degrees when I woke up this morning, so I was able to use the heated seats and heated steering wheel on the car. And now that it's about 24, 25 degrees out, I get to use the ventilated seats on this. We have full leather seating on here. It comes in 3 different colors on the Execline. As I said, front heated seats, front ventilated seats, heated second row captain's chairs, and 3-zone automatic climate control. Volkswagen has the Digital Cockpit on this trim, and that's why I say it's a little different if you go with the US model. I believe it doesn't come on that equivalent version, so small little features to note there. We've talked about it before, it works well enough. You have an 8-inch infotainment system, has Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, and SiriusXM Radio. We've talked about that as well in depth. The image quality isn't too bad, but I just find that the navigation software feels a little dated compared to what other manufacturers are providing, especially at this $55,000 price point. The driver has 3 memory options. There are a couple power options for the front passenger. The second row, you can slide them forward and back. And Volkswagen says that it's easier for people to get into the third row as you can move the seat out of the way without folding it. So it's good if you have a car seat. Unfortunately, we're not testing car seats anymore on test drive. This version is a 6-passenger. You've got 2 in the front, 2 in the middle, 2 in the back. The rear seats can be folded completely flat to give you much more storage space. The second row you can keep up or fold flat and again move forward and back. For the passengers in the second row, you have side window sunshades along with the panoramic sunroof up top, controls for that third row climate control, and somewhat adjustable armrests. The only big bummer back there's no cup holders for passengers. They do say on their website that this vehicle can come up to 17 cup holders. That includes the 2 in the front and then all the ones in the door pockets, as well as the back seat area. But if you are in the second row, you will have to put your cup in the side, not as convenient. The Execline also comes with a 12-speaker Fender audio system. Volkswagen has been going with Fender for quite some time now. The sound quality is pretty good, pretty comparable to what we get out of a Harman Kardon audio system. The Execline also has birch brown trim. I'm not going to say it's wood because you tap on it, it sounds very plastic. Honestly, it looks like just a plastic sheet in the front area here and on the door cards. There's nothing on the back, so really just 3 pieces of faux wood as far as I'm concerned on there. And another disappointment, you don't have LED lighting for the interior. All the map lights, all the door lights, they're all old incandescent bulbs. And again, especially at the $55,000 price point, you would like to have LED interior lighting. The vehicle does come with ambient lighting, though I would call it more mood lighting. It really just runs along the bottom part of the dashboard where the silver plastic is. And same thing for the door cards. It just runs a little bit underneath where the faux wood trim is. That's about it. Footwell lighting as well is pretty subtle. There are no color choices for it. It's just a white light. So again, I would call that more mood lighting than ambient lighting. The vehicle comes with 3 programmable HomeLink buttons. Take a look at the owner's manual before you go and program it. It works differently than pretty much any other HomeLink system I've used before. It's located just in the top here. And then aside from the rest of it, I did mention that I was using the heated seats and ventilated seats. I find that the ventilated seats don't actually get that cool. Now, technically, it's supposed to be sucking air away from you, sucking away the heat from your body, but I just found on 3, the highest setting, it just doesn't feel like they're on. And I've tested both sides of the front, and the heated seats don't get incredibly hot either. So just something to note. I mean, we're testing it again in 8-degree weather in the morning, so it's not the best temperature to be testing it at. But yesterday was about 24, 25 degrees as well, and I had the seats on ventilation, and again, just felt like nothing was going on. Now let's take the Atlas on a road test. We'll talk about its V6 performance, the all-wheel drive through 4 motion, the 8-speed transmission, and everything else you need to know if you're in the market for a $55,000 behemoth. One thing we should test if we're driving a large SUV crossover thing like this is how well can you do a turn in it. And we're on the end of a ditch road here. Yeah, you can do it. You can do it without having to do a 3-point turn. That's just because there's a lot of grass to be able to do that. And I was going to film a quick launch a few minutes ago before we actually started what you're watching right now, but you have to turn off the auto stop start system even though the car is in sport mode with the sport transmission profile on. Bit of a bummer. A lot of cars now are just thinking, you know, if you want to have it in sport mode, you probably want to not have the auto stop start on. But let's talk about some of the other stuff about this car, and it's good because we're going over some of this rough area here. You can see hopefully on the camera how well it absorbs it. I mean, you really don't feel anything too harsh in the car, but you do feel the bumps just because the suspension feels a little floaty when you go over things. You're bouncing around a little bit. It's not the worst experience, very similar to what you get out of a pickup truck. And we've talked about that before, which is, I guess, why Volkswagen kind of thinks that this is an SUV, but it's still a crossover. Yeah, going over some of this, it's not bad. It's not the worst, that's for sure. You know, the car does eat it up quite well, considering it is such a big vehicle. The suspension system on here is quite a bit bigger than anything else that you get from Volkswagen. So going over bigger bumps like that, not a huge problem. Do the 20-inch rims help with that? Not really. I mean, I guess you could go bigger, if you wanted to. But if you want a smoother ride, especially if you live somewhere where there are a lot of potholes, then you'll want to go with maybe 19-inch rims would probably still look fun on this. Even 18-inch rims might still look okay. You don't necessarily need the 20s, but I guess it kind of goes with the look of this truck because those sidewalls are still pretty big even on 20. It's not too bad overall. Whee! You're not buying this because you want a sporty feel. You want something that can probably fit your entire family and be relatively comfortable doing it. So you go around the corners here and you kind of get, you do get tossed into them quite a bit more than you do on other vehicles, but you're getting something that has the capacity and space to fit your entire family and also be able to tow about 5,000 pounds, so you can't really argue too much about it. It still gets the job done. One of the potential benefits for buyers who are looking at this is the dedicated mode selector to be able to switch between things like snow mode, which would be good during the winter. We've got our eco, normal, and sport mode, and then you've also got off-road and an off-road custom mode. So if you are using this, I wouldn't necessarily say to be traversing like the Grand Canyon with it, but if you are looking to use something that is slightly more off-road capable, maybe you live in a cottage during the summer and you want to have something that can go on the dirt roads, maybe climb over some of the rougher stuff out there, then you do have the options for this. A lot of crossovers just don't have those capabilities, so this is a little bit more advanced compared to a lot of the other vehicles on the market. Not necessarily in this segment, because I do believe that the Kia and Hyundai products do have dedicated controls to be able to put it into an off-road mode. But if you wanted to, you've got that option there. It could be a huge benefit for people that actually do take this off the pavement. Yeah, I mentioned when we were going around our little cornering test there that you do get pushed around a little bit. That's okay for a vehicle of this size. I still feel pretty comfortable in here. The seats are similar to what we've seen on other products from Volkswagen. They're not the most contouring. They are a little flat, but they do work well enough for what you're looking for. Also, visibility on this vehicle is pretty good considering its size. The windows are a good size. You've got a lot of space in between you and the front of the vehicle though, which again is why I would suggest not going for the R-Line package, getting the 360 camera so that if you are pulling into a parking spot, you can see if there's a curb there or something like that. It just is so boxy on the front that you don't really see much beyond the hood. But as I mentioned when we did the showdown comparing the Golf All-Track and the Volkswagen Tiguan, this really could be a good vehicle for a lot of people. You do have a lot of horizontal space here. You don't really sit arm to arm with the person beside you, which is nice. And if you do have a family of 4, for example, you like to go on trips and spend a lot of time in the car, the amount of space between the 2 back passengers is a great thing. Plus, if you do need the space to put 2 extra people in the trunk, you have that option too. And while we don't always need all of this space, this is a good option for people over something like a minivan. And we really do like the minivans for 2018, 2019. We really find that they do serve a huge need in the marketplace for more space, more customization, a little bit more flexibility when you're loading people or things up. This doesn't necessarily have that same level of flexibility, but it does have a good amount of space, and the all-wheel drive is a plus, especially if you live here in Quebec. Certainly a help, especially over the front-wheel drive setup on this. The 4Motion can come in handy if the weather's a little rough.
Fuel economy is always important for large vehicles such as the Atlas. We achieved 11 liters per 100 kilometers or 21 US miles per gallon on our 100 kilometer test loop, and 12.4 liters per 100 kilometers or 19 mpg during our week with Volkswagen's largest crossover. By comparison, these numbers are closer to the full-size pickup trucks we featured recently. However, we do have the Kia Telluride coming up in a few weeks, so we'll see how the fuel economy compares between both of those mid-size crossovers. In terms of our likes for the 2019 Volkswagen Atlas Execline, the interior space is excellent, with comfortable seating for 6 and enough trunk space for families to take on holiday without worrying about room. We also found that the 8-speed transmission was very smooth in normal driving mode. The exterior design is also a plus for us, even though it looks like a big Tiguan. The suspension helps to eat up the road imperfections during our drive, and the LED headlights worked very well at night. However, there are a few misses for us with the Atlas. The interior lighting not being LED is a miss considering the overall price for this vehicle and how the competition like the Kia Telluride offers LED lighting throughout the interior. We won't add the lackluster single-color mood lighting to the list. However, again, it is important to note that the competition offers more. Volkswagen's navigation is still dated in our opinion, feeling like software from the late 2000s rather than software from the end of the 2010s. And finally, the R-Line package deleting the 360-degree cameras and power folding mirrors is a big miss, both for the size of the vehicle and the overall price. Personally, I'd recommend skipping the R-Line in order to keep those two options unless you absolutely need the look of the R-Line over the functionality of better visibility and folding mirrors. As consumer trends are shifting again towards larger vehicles like the Atlas, it means the industry is adapting as well. While the Atlas launched in a relatively small segment, new for 2020 models from Hyundai and Kia along with other crossovers like the Chevy Traverse means buyers have a lot of choice in this segment, and Volkswagen will have to do more if they want to attract new buyers instead of just loyal customers who wouldn't consider anything other than the Atlas for their behemoth crossover needs.